Kelsey Plum said obviously a strike would be the worst thing for both sides. What can you tell us about where things stand right now?
Both sides are working really hard to get a deal done. We understand the time constraints we're under. And yeah, I think, we're having many meetings, many going back and forth. Everything is very fluid right now, so it's kind of hard to comment on stuff, but just know that we're working hard to get it done.
They gave it a valiant effort. The entitled players in the WNBA, they tried their best to achieve their dream of being paid on the same level as NBA players. And what I mean by that, I don't mean WNBA players are asking for NBA money. Well, they are asking for NBA money because without NBA money, this dump of a league ceases to exist. But what I mean is, they are trying to achieve their dream of achieving the same percentage of league revenue as NBA players. Now, what that really means is, WNBA players have been trying to achieve their dream of being given money they have no way of earning. And to their credit, they tried. To their credit, they tried to make their dreams come true. But as is often the case with dreams, you eventually have to wake up. And with a deadline of March 10th being set to get a deal done, entitled WNBA players are quickly waking up to the fact that they have no leverage, which means they have no power. I have used this reference before, and I'm going to use it again. In the movie American Gangster, Denzel Washington plays the role of Harlem drug kingpin Frank Lucas. He brings his cousins, his brothers from North Carolina up to New York City to help him run the family drug empire. One night, they're all out at a nightclub. One of his younger brothers, he's dressed like Nicky Barnes. He's flashy. He's wearing expensive clothes, expensive jewelry. Ric Flair would describe him as styling, woo, and profiling. The FBI would describe him as 25 to life. Frank Lucas, he pulls his younger brother aside and asks, "What the hell are you doing? Why are you dressed like a millionaire? Why are you dressed like a Hollywood celebrity? When you're running a multi-million-dollar illegal empire, the last thing you want to do is bring unnecessary, unwanted attention to yourself." While he is explaining what should be common sense to his doofus brother, Denzel Washington says what I believe is the best line in the movie. The loudest one in the room is the weakest one in the room. This line perfectly describes the last 12 to 18 months in the WNBA dump. Over the last year, as they've been negotiating a new collective bargaining agreement, we have barely heard anything from the league. We've barely heard from the diva of dump divas, Kat Engelbert. Meanwhile, WNBA players have been doing what they do best, which is loudly complaining to anyone willing to listen. Remember this passionate soliloquy from Nafisha Collier 5 months ago? Listen to how she described the diva of dump divas, Kat Engelbert. Watch it for yourself.
Year after year, the only thing that remains consistent is the lack of accountability from our leaders. The league has a buzzword that they've rolled out as talking points for the CBA as to why they can't pay the players what we're worth. That word is sustainability. It's the perfect example of the tone-deaf, dismissive approach that our leaders always seem to take. I've finally grown tired. For too long, I have tried to have these conversations in private, but it's clear there is no intention of accepting there's a problem. The league has made it clear it isn't about innovation, it isn't about collaboration, it's about control and power. Right now, we have the worst leadership in the world.
It is amazing how fast the perceived enemy changes in this league. For months, WNBA players have been fighting the league. For months, they have made Kathy Engelbert out to be a heartless pariah. Hell, they wanted to dump the diva of dump divas. They wanted her fired. But all of a sudden, As the March 10th deadline is rapidly approaching, WNBA players have decided to change enemies. They are no longer fighting the league, they are now fighting their own union. Make sure to like and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter at KC_BTL84. Link to the second channel is in the description below. Earlier today on the second channel, talked about the secondary dump known as Unrivaled, celebrating their supposed financial success. Unrivaled released some of their financial metrics. They were working overtime polishing this turd, begging people to acknowledge their accomplishments. But of all the financial metrics they released, I noticed one metric that was missing: profit. I will explain why profit was mysteriously missing from the celebration, so if you haven't already, click the link in the description below, subscribe to the second channel. Headline at ESPN: Kelsey the Plumber and Breanna Stewart raise concerns over players' union handling of CBA negotiations. Monday, Kelsey the Plumber put down the plunger and grabbed a pen to write a 3-page letter to Terry Jackson, who is the executive director of the WNBA Players Union. I'm sorry, Miss Jackson. Ooh, I am for real. Never meant to say I wouldn't play. My bank account will be empty any day. For months, WNBA players have been telling Terry Jackson that they are ready and willing to go on strike. They are willing to sit out and cancel the season. But now, those same players are criticizing Terry Jackson and claiming, "This is so unfair. We haven't had an adequate seat at the table during these negotiations." What? Excuse me? You haven't had an adequate seat at the table? Kelsey Plum and Breanna Stewart, they have been some of the loudest voices during these negotiations. From the outside looking in, the WNBA Players Union has voiced the unreasonable demands that the players wanted. The problem is, and I told you this from the beginning, and credit should be given to Kathy Engelbert and Adam Silver, because this entire time, the league has refused to budge. They told WNBA players from the very beginning, we are not giving you a percentage of gross revenue. We will give you 70% of net revenue, but we are not giving you a percentage of gross revenue. The players started out asking for 40%. League said no. Then it was 30%. No. 28%, no. Now it's down to 27%, no. But all of a sudden, as the deadline is approaching, there's a growing number of WNBA players who are suddenly willing to accept the league's original offer, which is 70% of net revenue. Now, sure, the league has made some small minor concessions, but their overall offer remains unchanged. Not only that, there is a growing number of WNBA players who are now fighting the union and refusing to go on strike. It looks like Uncle KC might have been wrong. I thought the WNBA season was going to be canceled, but clearly, I overestimated the resolve of WNBA players. I overestimated the amount of fight they had in them. I should have known better. I should have seen the false bravado. Hell, I literally named one of the dumps in this league the Chicago Bravado. I should have known that once reality set in, once they realized they would not be making any money, I should have known that WNBA players would fold, which is exactly what's happening right now. WNBA players are essentially giving up the fight. Have you guys ever noticed that players in this league, they always seem to have an enemy. Have you ever noticed that they're always complaining about someone or something? Years ago, they complained about the lack of media coverage. Then they blamed misogyny and toxic masculinity for the fact that this league is a huge embarrassing failure. Mythical racism, they complain about Don Trump. They complain about salaries. They complain about travel and private airfare, hotels. Caitlin Clark, they made her public enemy number one. Over the last year, Kathy Engelbert has been the new public enemy number one. And now, WNBA players are complaining about their own union. Although a deal has not been accepted, it looks like they are getting closer and closer to getting a deal done. If it happens before March 10th, the WNBA season will proceed as scheduled. Max contract players will be making over $1 million a year. Average WNBA player will be making around $500,000 a year. One of the concessions that the league was willing to make, they're willing to give stars like Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese a fast track to max contracts. Instead of Caitlin Clark having to wait another 2 or 3 years, she will be eligible for a larger contract by next season. But the point is, WNBA players will be making significantly more money. Now, whether or not this is sustainable long term, I don't know. I have my doubts, but without access to the WNBA's financials, I have no idea whether or not this is sustainable. I can't imagine that the league would put itself in a position to go bankrupt, but if they're unable to sustain growth, if they're unable to sustain the momentum they built in 2024, this deal could quickly be a flaming ass fire. My question for now is, though, what happens going forward with Unrivaled? One of the only reasons Unrivaled exists is to give WNBA players an opportunity to exceed their minimum wage salaries. Now that the WNBA is offering significantly higher salaries, what is the purpose of Unrivaled? Why would players risk injury? Why sacrifice your offseason to play in a dump that no one is watching? TNT can get out of their contract with Unrivaled after next season. With Unrivaled struggling to draw flies to a fresh turd, that is likely to happen. But now, they could face an even bigger problem. Unrivaled might cease to exist because they won't have access to the best players. Think about it. If you're a top player in the WNBA making $750,000 a year, $1 million a year, why in the hell would you waste your time with Unrivaled for $200,000 a year? Sound off in the comments below. I'll see you guys tomorrow.